Okay, so now it is 3:15 a.m. in the morning, people. I got up at freaking 1. I fell asleep on the couch. I was gonna try to watch a movie. It's just lay down and... Anyway, it's November 9th, 2021, so like the next day. I'm kind of doing these videos back to back. I wanted to do this yesterday, but I just got tired, people. I get tired. This is draining, okay? Like, and then to make matters worse, you're dealing with these huge files now. Wait, so my house is cold. I've had the heat on, but all the heat goes downstairs, and I bought this heater, but I don't know, I don't really have room for it. It needs, like, I have to put it in the center of the living room. And I don't even know how well it's gonna work. I got this little heater, but anyway, let me stay focused, because I gotta get on with other things. I got more wheat coming, okay? Right? I guess it's one of those Pastor Granny moments. Be happy, don't worry, right? God will take care of everything. Well, I helped God in that situation, so that if for whatever reason the economy just really tanks next year and either I can't afford to really buy anything, right, in terms of groceries, quote unquote, or if the wheat supply should dry up because, you know, of crop failures and, you know, countries not importing or exporting, you know, they're either buying it all like China, right, and then there's Brazil that's not shipping it out, and, you know, we had fires and drought, and, you know, and we know we were down to 34 buckets from Argosy Farms with go, right, with an assumption that they were going to get a new shipment, but we already know that Argosy Farms is, you know, not taking any new orders, and they're backlogged by 3 months at least, trying to fill past orders. And so, you know, I just had to help God a little along the way with that one, just to make sure that I had the wheat. Okay, I'm not buying any more after this, that's for sure. So, okay, I want to get this over with in terms of going through this this little recording, because this thing is too low. Because as I do this, people, I mean, obviously I'm internalizing what I'm hearing, right? Because I have to type this out, right? I said I'd type this out. Okay, I'm trying to bring this up a little more. You know, I don't want to have to go over the same information in 2 years from now, or a year from now, or whenever, in terms of rehashing it in my brain and, you know, trying to get everything all understood and that kind of crap, right? Whereas if I have it all written down, and I guess you could say it's been fact-checked, right, then it's pretty straightforward. So I'm thinking, oh, it's so cold. I'm thinking, you know, I'm so busy and worn out, and you just never know where the next hit's gonna come in from. You know, that hyena group, right? You can't get too comfortable with anything anymore. Like there's no future. You know, when in the old days, you know, you were kind of expected to try and build a future, some kind of future. Now people, a lot of people, I wouldn't say all people, the ones that isolate themselves in their gated community, in their fucking houses, within their own little bubbles, that, you know, are not suffering too much, you know, it's nothing to them, right? But for people like me and my family, with the numbers growing, okay, you know, I don't know. Okay, let me stay focused. Oh yeah. You know, it's kind of hard to build in that quote-unquote positive stuff, like as if I was to write a book, Amari's cookbook, with the Dear Abby in the back, in terms of this general information. Because this is basically all it really is, people, is just trying to understand at least the general information. I am not wanting to, and nobody should expect me to, go to school or to university or anywhere like that for 6 years just so that I can fully understand 150% what these surgeons are doing as they cut into my grandson's body. I don't need to know what each and every ligament is and all this other stuff. I just need to know, I don't want to say the basics because it's a little more than the basics. What I got was the basics. It needs to be expanded on where the basics make sense and the numbers match up. And if you can't really put a definitive answer in terms of the numbers in regards to the types of questions I was asking, then there should be something in writing where it's like black and white, even if it's not set in stone in terms of the exact numbers. But, there needs to be, okay. Now, whether I get that written down as a Dear Abby in Amari side dish book, cookbook, right? Remains to be seen. I just know that right now we're in the talking stage of this because we're just hearing the information. Now, I was there, everything was on the fly. So obviously, and there was a few times I tried to jot down what he was saying, but it was completely impossible because, I don't do shorthand. And anyway, other people were interjecting with their points of view or whatever, right? At least this way we get to hear it, internalize what we're hearing, compare it to what's already been said, add in new information as you do research, right? And then try and just balance everything out so that when I have time, right, it should read pretty fluently with fact-check numbers, right? Where they're not being skewed into other numbers, right? To take away from what we're really talking about here in terms of numbers. Because that's what I feel like without me having to hear it and knowing what I'm going to do, everything that was said on the fly to convince me basically to participate in this program based on a supposition of preventing pain. It's just, I don't know, it just brings me back to Uncle John and stuff like that. And, that woo to fool you, right? Or the gaslighting to direct you into a different situation where whatever you think you're going to get is completely opposite of what you get. What you actually get, okay? What you think and what you get are two different fucking things. And that's exactly what was going on with Uncle John. And, Amari is not... All right, so let me get to the gist. I'm going in circles here, and I don't want to be wasting nobody's time, including myself, because I kind of want to get back on with, my food prep and continue putting stuff away and, showing you the little things that I'm buying and why I'm buying, okay, and in part because of what our governments are doing, and we can't necessarily trust our public services, right? I mean, anything can come crashing down at any moment, right? That's just the reality for a lot of people. Anyway, this is liquid herb, black walnut, and it's, for worms. Okay, now I have natural black walnut from the trees that I bought, that I picked up with Andre. And, I've got the black walnut powder for ink and for stains. But then I also have black walnut powder in my bedroom that came from nice husks, right? Pure husks. and I dehydrated them and nicely, and you know, I grounded them up, and you could actually use it for your teeth. If you had an infection, you could go like this, and you know, oh boy, you could make it into a face wash, right? You know, your face would come out so nice after a while. It's really nice. Or you could sprinkle it in food and use it as a dewormer, but I came across this on the internet, and I've never seen this before. So I ended up buying this bottle, plus I bought a few other bottles just to have it in the house, based on what I was reading in regards to if you wanted to use it as a dewormer for whatever worms, right? Tapeworm, that kind of thing, right? Because you don't necessarily know that you have them. And don't forget, people, I've been working in a really fucking grody yard for a long time, okay? With raccoons and all this shit, so, you know, I may still use this. And I bought something with some wormwood in it too, but before I'd go up and do that, I'd have to read a little more. The point is I wanted to have this, being that dewormers seem to be outlawed, are seemingly to be outlawed by our governments now as a remedy to certain issues. So as a backup, I just thought, well, so anyway, stuff like that. Just want to talk about stuff like that, right? Like that nebulizer, you know? I mean, like, the way things are going, like, seriously, that nebulizer, I should try it before I put it away. I got it in a bag now. I'm just going to put it away, people, and if and when it ever needs to be used, it's here, but I should make sure that it works first. You know, I just kind of want to continue on with the videos that I was doing, in part because of what our governments are doing, in part of because of, I don't want to call it misinformation, but just with the reality of what is going on and how that two-tiered classism is widening, and, you know, services that are being provided to the community isn't necessarily what we always think they are. Okay, anyway, let me just get on with this. Forget it. We know what I want to do. So now I just need to finish up with this stuff and try and get into this computer here, so, you know, do some more research and write out, if anything, write it out for myself. So when the subject comes up again at some point in the future, to which we know it will, I'll have reference, and I won't have to repeat myself on many things. And then maybe we can move forward. Now, the first thing I want to say is, this doctor that I'm dealing with, I thought I met this doctor before. I thought that this doctor is from Israel. Okay, but I think maybe in there somewhere I'm getting confused, and I dealt with a different doctor that came from Israel. Whereas this doctor, his family origin name comes from India, although he's highly connected to Australia, which kind of concerns me, people, because Australia is the test country for whatever it is that all these other governments are doing that make people like me go off and buy home remedies for situations that may or may not be able to be treated after the economy completely tanks. Oh my Lord, I hear a stupid cat or something. Hold on. Okay, obviously I'm hypersensitive here. All right, so anyway, I'm confused, okay? I know my eyesight's going bad on me and stuff like this, okay? I thought that this doctor from Israel, I'm gonna have to figure it out, people, because it's bugging me, right? He doesn't, in my mind, look anything like what I'm looking on the internet in terms of the doctor I'm supposed to be dealing with. Even the picture on the internet doesn't, in my mind, for whatever reason, doesn't look like the doctor that I'm dealing with in terms of, that's you. You don't look like your picture. Now, mind you, he's got a mask on now, but I don't remember meeting the person on the picture, per se, as to who I'm dealing with in the here and now when it comes to this hip doctor. I'm just saying. Why my mind has that glitch, I don't know. Maybe once I figure out who that doctor is from Israel, right? Maybe it had something to do with the MRI with Amari. That's the only thing that I can think of, right? And then this doctor, you know, because this stuff stresses me out, people, right? Okay, so anyway, regardless, it doesn't matter, because this guy, we know, is a founder to the program within Children's Hospital to streamline services, first of all. That would be the one thing, right? And then he does research, people. He is the research director of the International Hip Dysplasia Institute and currently holds the medical lead position. I told you he's a leader of the pack, right? For the Child Health BC Hip Surveillance Program for children with cerebral palsy. He is also a co-leader for the Evidence to Innovation theme at BC Children's Hospital Rs, BCCHR, I don't know. He is the founding president of the Canadian Pediatric Orthopedic Group, which facilitates the academic and scientific exchange of thoughts and ideas between Canadian pediatric orthopedic surgeons and creates invaluable opportunities for educational activities and collaborative research across Canada. We have a lot of that in BC, okay? We got that shit going on in the Surrey Memorial Hospital with their illegally embalming bodies as they use students to do it, and then try and get everybody to sign a no-talk order so that they can get a fucking paycheck. In addition, he leads the Bone Health and Mobility Research Team at BC Children's Hospital and currently acts as principal investigator or co-investigator on various local and international multi-center research studies. With this, what they're doing, what they're proposing with the Amari to have this surgery, right, to prevent pain. That's why when he first started out, he reminded me that what he's presenting has in relation to pain, in part to prevent future pain at the cost of the risk benefit, to which he gets paid for, and so does the program and the research and everybody else that's connected to that. But ultimately, it's Amari who pays the bigger price, because he's the one that has to experience the pain in order to get through the study. Because in my opinion, the group, as an international group, however, they interconnect with each other through that web. You know, some of these studies within a study, you know, they're trying to capitalize off of the youthful regeneration of bone and other parts of the body that can regenerate, especially when the patient is young, that natural regeneration, right? When people are in their 70s and 80s, their bodies don't regenerate as quickly, and therefore they're more subject to die if they have a hip fracture, where young children, if they get a hip fracture and a good surgeon, chances are they'll bounce back pretty quick, in part because of their age. This is why I think they're trying to plug Amari into it. This is why I think they target these kids as soon as it's been documented that they have cerebral palsy. But you see, they don't document until it's convenient for them, where they're not going to be held responsible for the injury that they created in the first place to even be able to document that Amari has cerebral palsy. But once he's documented, that's it. You really don't have a choice. You're expected to sign them up to this program. Right? Unless, of course, you could go into 100% private care and pay for all these different things that's built in through government with their quote-unquote surveillance program. Because once you sign up with the HIP surveillance program, that program gets so much money, funding from the government for different apparatuses, they just services in general, right? Like when Mari gets bigger, being that I'm poor and I can't go off and pay for my own hoists on the ceiling with hammocks and all that motorized and all this other stuff, I could put an application in and have part of that, I don't know about all, but a part of it paid for through medical, right? Because that would be considered a medical necessity, a device, right? To be able to move him, because there's going to come a time when I just won't be able to pick him up. And it's going to take more than one person effectively to pick him up. Okay? And that's another thing I'm thinking. I'm thinking maybe they don't, maybe they're trying to push this because in their mind, right, it's like that, you take a bus. Amari can go see the doctor on a bus. Okay? In their mind, it's cheaper to run these kids through surgery when they're little because they don't take up as much resources versus than when they're teenagers or young adults in terms of following up on that surgery to prevent pain, even if it means complete hip replacement. Because if I had to go on what I'm thinking right now, people, knowing what I know, which is very limited, okay, I would lean more towards hip replacement. If I'm going to have my grandson subject to death and chronic pain, because there's not going to be a choice one day. Surgery is inevitable. Based on what I know right now, just on the few little things that I've read, I would probably advocate for hip replacement with the artificial, I guess that's the joint, and then the socket with, right? How that all comes into play, I don't know. This is where the specialist should be able to show you in black and white with pictures and maybe even give you a flyer so you can see exactly what it all entails when it relates to a hip surgery with hip replacement. But just from what I've seen so far, it's a pretty common procedure in terms of there's a lot of people that get it done, right? It's not breezy, but it's common enough where whoever does these surgeries in terms of these orthopedic surgeons, there's a pretty high success rate. So if Amari is facing surgery based on what this doctor or any other doctor is saying, and just with his circumstances, knowing that he can have that surgery at a later date, knowing that they normally don't do hip replacements, but it's been done, and after it's all been said and done, in terms of comparison to numbers with the general population, the risk factors aren't any more different, right? There's just little different mechanisms you're dealing with in terms of the physiotherapy part of it after the fact, because it's not like the person can get up and participate in that physiotherapy in order to be able to make the whole hip replacement successful, where there's least amount of complications versus you're dealing with somebody that's not mobile because they can't walk, they can't stand, they can't hold their own weight, right? Government, for whatever reason, I think financially, probably see children like Amari having late stage hip surgery as more expensive than doing it under a research protocol, people, so that they can tap into that natural healing process of young kids to prevent pain, future pain, at a lower cost to the taxpayers as they sell research as a means to capture more participants. So that the stakeholders come out ahead. But it's the children like Amari who are paying the price because there's that 30% chance that, I don't want to say he'll be mutilated for life, but it kind of boils down to mutilation if you're left with feeling pain forever until you're finally dead. Okay? And that's a possibility. Because they're having to go back in and clean the wound, and then they got to go back in and fix the plate that bent, and then they got to go back in because the bones didn't fuse, and, but of course all this information is going into that database for the benefit of the kids. Yeah, well, it might take 50 years before that benefit gets to them, people. Amari doesn't have 50 years, okay? And right now with what I thinking, well, if you're going to do it, you're going to do it right, okay? And hip replacement sounds like it's the better deal when it comes to once it's there without the complications, it's good. It's good because that's what it's designed for, right? Okay? And most people, the majority, a high majority, have better lives after they've had it done, including children, well, young adults with CP, because they've already done it. It's just not something that they normally do, especially if they're immobile. But it can be done. Okay? That's kind of what I'm thinking. So, okay, now that I know that, and I'm thinking like that, obviously I'm just thinking like that, right? And we know that this guy is plugged in directly into a research study. He runs it, right? I mean, why not? You're there. You want to help kids, right? It's okay. Nothing wrong with that, right? But, I'm just wondering how much pressure I'm going to end up getting in order to fulfill the quota. Because the stakeholders have, like I said, this guy is kind of not at arm's length to his own program. He's committed to fill the quota, right? In terms of that study or that research. I don't know how flexible this person is, okay? In terms of if I go to him and say, well, no, I want to hold out for hip replacement for when Amari's older because I think that's the better deal for him long term and I'll have a better quality of life before that happens because you won't be cutting into him right now and he'll have a better quality of life after the fact, assuming that he doesn't develop any infections. He's still facing the infections, but in my mind, he's facing a better result after the fact. A better quality of life after the fact. Versus, I don't want to say bumbling along to get the result, because that's kind of how it feels like to me. The more I'm reading, the more I'm convinced that it's more research than quality healthcare. Just because they can do it under an operation doesn't mean it's a quality service, especially if it can kill them for the benefit of what? The statistic? I don't want Amari to be a statistic like that. Anyway. So, you see, by the time I turn on this little recorder, we'll just listen for 5 minutes and I'll turn off this turn off this video, and it just takes too long to convert these things over and upload. And oh my God, my hard drive, my secondary hard drive on this computer is almost full, and I've only got something like 9 videos on it. Oh, it's pathetic. Like, seriously, I'm seriously thinking of going back to my old videos because it's the message that's more important versus what you see, okay? Especially when it relates to stuff like this, people. Because this is serious in terms of lifelong consequences, right? Okay, so I did make a second attempt. This is not my first attempt. I did make a second attempt, I guess you could say yesterday. I'm ready to go back to sleep for a while before I have to start my day. Anyway, to get a second opinion on what's going on here in terms of from an orthopedic surgeon. This time around, and you know, I don't want to say it makes me suspicious, but I'm wondering if my phone call was intercepted. I do. Because I phoned up, like, I don't want necessarily a pediatrician that does orthopedic surgery, because I'm figuring they all end up at the children's hospital and none of them are at arm's length to each other. So no matter who I come into contact with as a second opinion, I feel they're going to be somewhat biased against me to support the program. Right? You know how that works. So anyway, I'm just phoning up orthopedic surgeons, hoping that I'll get one that will talk to me about hips and surgery in general and how it's applicable to children. Now, whether he wants to become Amari's doctor, I don't know. I just need somebody that knows something of hip surgery outside of dealing with children in terms of what I'm dealing with right now. Because eventually Amari's going to grow up and maybe he won't have hip surgery until he's a little older, and by then he won't even qualify for the hip program. Okay, there's that. You got the devil by the horns, right? They want to keep him. I want him maybe with a different doctor when he's a different older, going for a different procedure. It's a battle of wills here, people. So I feel like I'm going to get a more honest opinion in terms of what I'm thinking, right? From an actual surgeon that does hip surgery on adults, I guess, right? And has experience just with everything in general, than I would if I took the referral from this doctor as to who he was going to refer me to. Anyway, long story short, I made a couple of phone calls. Well, I made one phone call, really. And I got this person on the phone that was kind of, one wouldn't answer the phone, left a message, whatever, right? Then I phoned another office, and woman answered the phone. We started talking, and I told her what I wanted. And she said, well, you're not, first of all, the first thing she said is, you're not going to find an orthopedic doctor talking to you about a child in terms of hip surgery, because that's done through special doctors, pediatric orthopedic surgeons, like the one I'm dealing with, and his co-workers that are in connection with him. Outside of that, no other orthopedic surgeon will talk to me. And I'm like, well, are you sure about that? Because, you know, I just want to separate myself from whatever it is and just, I don't know. And I just want to broaden my mind on it, people, right? And have a different doctor, like, just, right? So anyway, she said, well, but, you know, and I'm like, well, whatever. And well, here, I got a number. You can, like, maybe so-and-so. She says, maybe so-and-so is still out and about, you know, blah, 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 right? That does pediatric surgery, right? for this kind of stuff or similar stuff. And she rattles off his name. And I'm like, oh, I get, okay, right, I gotta try, right? And I don't know who this person is, right? Don't know if it's the referral from this other doctor. And then next thing you know, she giving me the phone number to this guy. And I'm like, in the back of my mind thinking, well, that happened pretty fucking fast. I guess she was on the phone with me as she was Googling this guy's name. Or maybe she had him because they used to refer. Anyway, point is she told me that I'm not going to find any orthopedic doctor to help me with this situation outside of what I got right now. Unless, of course, I want to settle for a second opinion from somebody from that children's hospital. Whereas this guy, right, he's been in the children's hospital. He knows the doctor that I've been dealing with. But he's going to be retiring apparently pretty soon. And he's been an orthopedic surgeon, mostly with club feet, that kind of thing, for over 30 years. So I have a choice now, right? I can contact the pediatrician at the children's hospital's office and ask them to forward the medical records for Amari so he can take a look, book an appointment with me, and sit down and discuss it. But honestly, people, I just feel like I'm barking up the same tree in terms of, because they're already friends, the two doctors, they've already worked with each other, the two doctors, right? You know, his alliance is whatever with what this doctor wants, okay? Before I think it would be what I'm suggesting in terms of what I think should happen or maybe could happen, right? And would it even be allowed to happen, people? You see, there's that devil with the horns. Would it even be allowed to have it happen in terms of hip replacement at a later age when it's like absolutely necessary so that Amari has his quality of life before that happens, and then his chance of quality of life after the fact of it happening, in my mind, is higher and will be more successful based on what I read so far versus what they're proposing to me now and what Amari has to face for the next 15 years of his life under the program, which is really a research program, as they use medical practices to you know, if they didn't have the hospital and they didn't have public tax dollars and they didn't have the government supporting them for what they're doing, right? You know, doesn't matter if it's transportation or whatever it is, right? You know, they wouldn't be doing it. But they're required to fulfill their quota. So even though I got a referral to a qualified individual, right, that you better hurry up because he's retiring soon, right? You better make your decision fast. I don't know if I'm going to get a fair assessment. And what if I'm not happy and I still want to get that independent orthopedic doctor that is completely at arm's length and specializes in hip replacement surgery? Because that's kind of what I want to, you know, I really want to get more information on that. So that's where I'm at with that stuff, okay? So, you know, I haven't really talked to anybody about it yet. I mean, ultimately, I make the decision. You know, I'm a little scared because I feel like I'm being set up. Like I said, it was too easy to pull that guy's number and name out of the hat, and then, you know, it's just the fact that they've worked together. But I mean, you see, that's the way our system is out here, people. Everything is all under one fucking roof. That's why I can't get an independent autopsy when I wanted it with Ciera. Never mind for ShaMay, okay? Because the government has made it so that we can't have access to independent doctors unless it's approved by them, basically. it's censored before you even get to where you need to go, right? That's just an example. So if they're going to prevent you from getting information on your dead daughter's bodies, well, they're going to prevent you from getting an independent doctor that might say, gee, you know, you got a point, and yeah, no, right, and yeah, something can be done, and even though you might have to make a few allowances in there because of the immobility, it doesn't mean that the surgery itself wouldn't be successful, because they've already done it, and it's been proven that it is successful, and the people who look after those patients are satisfied with the services. And when it comes to risk factors, like I said, there isn't much difference outside of the quality of life seems to be better after the fact. None of this I'm getting for Amari. I'm getting, well, you know, we don't really have a choice because we know the pain is coming, and it's almost like they're waiting for the fucking pain. And then after I'm thinking, right? You know, sometimes you think yourself too much, right, to death, right? I'm thinking, and I'm thinking that student doctor, or whatever he was, the way he was twisting Amari's, you know, doing the hips, and then he started doing this, and just doing all kinds of crazy shit. He was doing so much stuff that I stood up, and I'm like, can I even do what you were expecting me to do? Like, can I even do what you were expecting Amari to do? The only thing is, Amari wasn't expected to do it. He was just doing it for Amari, right? As he had his little protractor to measure everything, because that's how they base some of their opinions on. Only this program ensured that they wouldn't rely on the protractor, and they made it where they had to use the x-rays every 6 months. So that, to my mind, just qualifies that budget in terms of they need X amount of dollars to ensure that they get their budget for their x-rays. When some of these x-rays, you know, 18 years of x-rays twice a month, twice a year, just for that, people, like, think about it. This is his pelvic area. They're frying his testicles. Right? It's all his pelvic area. Waiting to pounce. So I don't know if I'll ever be able to get a second opinion from a 100% completely at arm's length to what's going on here when it comes to hip surgery. Unless, of course, Amari outgrows the program and they kick him out because he doesn't qualify to be there anymore. And that's without surgery, that is. That's another, 14 more years of arguing. Because you know it's going to end up being an argument. Because the x-ray said so, even though Amari is still not experiencing any pain. That's how easy. Not to mention all the other shit that they do on the outside skirts, because, just to give you an example, the hyenas over there, okay, at the Surrey Memorial Hospital, that pack, they're refusing people to give me Ciera's medical records. I was on the phone with them yesterday. They're going to send me a letter, so wait and see what the letter says when it gets back here to my house. Of course, they cited privacy. I said, no, more like, what are you hiding? I said, what, do I have to take the Surrey Memorial Hospital to court? But you see, you can't do that. You have to take Fraser Health Authority to court, and then who shows up? Andrew the Dragon, with the judge in his back pocket. As the government calls me entertainment, frivolous, scandalous, and a waste of the court's time. Because they're trying to protect Ciera's privacy, as if, people. They only had her running around out in the fucking streets, sicker than a fucking dog, for years and years and years and years and years, as she was going in and out of their hospitals through their studies and research. until finally she ended up on a autopsy table and was gutted. And even then, no report. No police report. No coroner's report. Nothing, people. So I have 2 ways of going about it. Well, 3. I can try and put an application in under that estate thing. You know how that goes. And get a judge to appoint me whatever, so I get access to these files by court order because I'm the mother. But they'll probably balk at that because they won't want to have me get those files, right? But I'll try. I don't know. I'll try and fit that in, people. Okay. Or I can, well, I'll have to take them to court. I have to take them to court, people. One or the other. I can either go in front of a judge and try and get the judge to give me the right to get my daughter's files. But because I'm suing the government already, they're not going to want to give me those files. So they're going to find some stupid excuse to say no, right? And throw me out and leave me hanging, right? Knowing that I don't have, right? Right? You've got the police fucking me over with not giving me their fucking file. What was the end result of their investigation, people? We have it on fucking video. They were investigating something. What is it that they were investigating? Why did I not get a report on that? Huh? Why? What? I don't even know what the fuck they were investigating, people. Okay? All I know is they used that as an opportunity to get rid of us. Right? After they mistreated my daughter for years and years and years and years and years and years and years, as if. Anyway, I just wanted you to know that. So when the letter comes, we'll read it. And then I'll see if I can go in front of a judge and get the permission to be able to get my daughter's files without having to take Fraser Health Authority to court. Okay? That could take a year as I'm being attacked over there with something else. That's how it works, people. I said to them, I said to that woman, I said, you're hiding something. I know you are. You know, I've heard about this before. Because, and it's true, Tisha had a friend that had a baby in that hospital. This was like a year and a half ago or so. It was after ShaMay was dead. And they did, I don't know what the hell they did, but they botched the delivery, and it was very traumatic. And in the end, they had to take a suction or something and suck out the baby from the vagina to the point where the baby's head was severely deformed. And the woman went back and tried to get her medical records, people, and the Surrey Memorial Hospital, under the loving care of Fraser Health Authority, denied access to this woman for her own records regarding the birth of her child, people. This is what I mean. There's something going on in that hospital that the government fucking condones. You see, I initially didn't want to get Ciera's medical files, not because I didn't want them, people, only because I knew it was going to be 10 boxes full. And that was just from one hospital. That's how much health care they gave Ciera. 10 boxes full. And I'm talking big fucking boxes, okay? That's a lot of paper to be having in my house, just sitting there doing nothing, because the court wants to call me entertainment and try and figure out how they're going to throw everything out of fucking court once it gets there. They'll tell me I can't be there because I can't afford to pay for it. But I'll cross that bridge on that day, assuming that I'm not under attack somewhere else. The closer we get to September of 2022, let's see what kind of drama pops up to distract me away from that. Right? But I just want you to know that they refused to give me Ciera's medical records under privacy because they're trying to protect Ciera's privacy. Even though they had her running around homeless on the fucking streets for 8 fucking years, sicker than a dog. As they accused her of being a junkie. And now they're trying to create a nation of junkies. Okay? Just remember that. Anyway, let's get on with this and get it over with so I can sit down over the next month and hopefully type out something that makes sense. I have to decide. I'm a little scared to go see this other doctor. I am, people. I'm already scared and I haven't even met the dude yet. Okay? And he's experienced 30 years in the business of looking after children, and I'm fucking scared to go see him because I feel like deep down inside he's going to be more apt to stick with his buddy before he would actually advocate for Amari as an independent spokesperson, being that he's going to retire anyway. So what does it matter? Right? That's like Trump and Pence, right? Passing the coin between themselves as they're in the White House and then shaking hands. Passing the coin, people. And I shouldn't think like that. Especially when I don't have that many options. So I figure I got a week or two to just kind of mull it over. I don't think he's going to retire in a week from now or 2 weeks from now. But being that he is going to retire, if I'm going to ask for a second opinion from this fella, I need to make it fast, like soon. Like I need to make a decision. But honestly, deep down inside, I'm scared. I don't necessarily trust that I'm going to get an honest opinion, because that's not the way BC works. We can't go get our independent pathologists. We can't go get our independent doctors. You know, we just can't. There's not enough people out here for that to happen. And anything that's brought into the fucking country to serve the public is already prepaid and bought. Like, it's already bought and prepaid for, in terms of, you want to come work in Canada, well, this is what you do. If you do it our way, you'll be successful. But if you go against the fucking grain, you ain't getting anywhere in BC. If anything, you're going to end up on the hit list like the rest of those people that we target. And now with what the government's doing with this other crap, with their orders, a lot of doctors are finding that line is no longer gray. It's a straight up freaking line, and you better choose what side you're on. I'm caught up in all that drama. I don't know if doctors even know what it means to be doctors anymore, except for the ones that are maybe towing the line. Okay? Towing the line for humanity, not profit. I'm crashing here with this, okay? Too long. How long? 40 minutes. And I already have 10 minutes before I turned it off and came back because of the cat. 50 minutes.
Risk benefit in this that you need to weigh in. And we think the benefits outweigh the risk, but that being said, we fully understand families' wishes and desires once they understand all of the risks and benefits.
Yeah. Okay, Mom, you can go on.
And isn't this what you guys are doing, kind of something new in terms of
putting these hips back in?
Yeah, whatever you're doing, it's not like it's been around for a long. It started, I think in Britain or some doctor. He just started with the hip surveillance and like how long has this idea of what you're doing been around?
Hip surveillance, you're absolutely right. In fact, I'm pretty proud to say we're the only province in North America that actually systematically follows these hips to make sure hips are not dislocated. But putting the hips back in with surgery is being done since 1960s, right? And before that. But as you said, the school of thought, in terms of majority of the surgeons believing should you put the hips in or out, has gone through different stages where 60s, 70s, 80s, a lot of those hips were put back in. 90s, early 2000s, a lot of surgeons left the hips to dislocate. In 2021, I would say 95% of the surgeons around the world will put the hips back in because of the evidence they raise where people have seen, like I have seen here, when I first arrived in early 2000, we were not putting these hips back in. And I used to do about 17 to 18 surgeries of cutting the bones, femoral heads, and throwing them in the bucket.
Did you hear that? Remember I said I did 18 to whatever thermal bones, cutting them at the head and throwing them in the bucket. Well, just a big bucket of soup bones. Right? Right? So
Because they become painful.
because they become painful. Okay, but what happened to hip replacement? Why didn't they do that, people?
So that's what
At
prompted.
what age?
They were anywhere between ages 8, 9 to 15, 16, 18, 20, 21.
So between 8 and 21 years old.
Right, so all different ages. And a lot of the time, the only time the family came to know the hips are dislocated is when the child started screaming in pain, is the first time they ever had an x-ray. So hip surveillance is nothing novel. It's been done in Sweden since 1990s. In fact, I would say we're very fortunate in BC. We have it, so we're able to see. And
They have it only because they use taxpayers' dollar to fund it, not to mention their private interest groups and stakeholders. Okay?
we're able to have these conversations with families like you to consider having a surgery done.
Okay.
And the type of pain we're talking about is like every time you move the hip for diaper changing, every time you move the hip from laying down to sitting, even sitting, some of them could only sit maybe half an hour, and then they have to get out. That's the type
So
of
this
pain.
is something that is ultimate for Amari to experience some kind of pain. I mean, you see, they keep pushing this pain. And the doctor made sure to, say that they didn't know, none of these parents knew that there was a hip problem with their children, even though clearly they had cerebral palsy, right? Until the kids started screaming out in pain, right? In other words, if you don't do what we ask you to do now, there's going to come a time where Amari's just going to suddenly start screaming, right? And in those days, apparently, they didn't know why until they went and did their first x-ray. And that's why they justify these x-rays every 6 months now, right? Because that was specifically brought in BC through their whatever history, right? I read, right? They chose to go against the protractor and specifically rely on x-rays, which I personally think is too much to justify what they're doing. You're almost convinced that his hips are going to pop out one day.
I have not seen, let me put it this way, I have not seen a child with a fully dislocated hip and the cartilage gone without a pain. Till now, I have not.
That wasn't what I asked. Right? Okay.
And maybe it's like a year after being fully dislocated, but it's coming.
But it's coming. So you better make your decision now and get it over with while he's still young and have a better chance of success. Okay. But it's coming. Oh my God. This is standing right behind me here, people. Okay? That's the cast lady. I'm pretty sure. She's right there. So, and you're convinced that his hips are going to pop out eventually, based on your experience?
That's my experience tells me, looking at the way his hips are, at some stage they are going to go out and dislocate.
Right, and it would be unbearable for him to be able to cope with it without surgery.
That's what my clinical inclination tells me.
Okay, well, clinical inclination tells me it would be more like my expertise. I mean, it sounds like a given, right? Would it put his life at risk in terms of not doing surgery when we get to that point, if we were to get to that point?
People don't lose, per se, as I said. You can't necessarily associate pain with loss of life.
I'm talking death.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, death. The pain may exacerbate other issues they have, right? Mm-hmm. So that can lead to maybe, but I would say pain as such is not going to cause death.
And it's not pain that could be managed through medication, or it's just that unbearable that it would be impossible?
It is not, just the medication is not going to do it. There's lots of people that have had in the past dislocated hips. The only thing I had to do was cut the femoral heads, throw it in the bucket. That reduces but never eliminates pain. It's not like, see how I said 80% of the kids I reconstruct do well without pain? I have never seen 80% of children whose hips are dislocated. No matter what treatment I did, they were ever in the same category of 80% of the kids that did well with hip surgery. That's the reason why we operate on this. Knowing that we're not changing their life expectancy, we're not doing this to make them walk any better, we're only doing this to reduce the future pain and suffering from hips being out.
Okay, you heard that. They're offering something only to reduce future pain and suffering.
That's the only objective why we're doing this surgery.
Because the pain would really affect the quality of life that he would have.
Yeah, but the risks and all affect the quality of his life, and it could be permanent and non-reversible. So, okay? So, because I spoke to a woman that in the States, right? I'm okay. She was saying that if I'm gonna, the longer you, well, no, when you're talking about what you're talking about, there comes a point where the ligaments can actually, I don't know, deteriorate as the hip is coming out. Something could snap. This is why I want to talk to just a orthopedic doctor, like, that does hip replacements and on adults and that kind of thing, because there's no special interest involved in terms of, you know, I mean, is that the only option Amari could possibly have, is to cut off the head of the femoral bone and throw it in the fucking garbage and then that's it? Like, is that what they do with adults? Like, I talked to a normal orthopedic surgeon, like, what is the percentages of that doctor cutting off everybody's thermal heads on their bone, right? Versus compared to doing hip replacement. Right? Ligaments could deteriorate.
Yeah. They get stretched, yeah.
And then that's what creates the pain?
So ligaments are trying to hold the hip in, and the muscle imbalance is pushing the hip out. We call that capsule. The lining of the hip joint compresses it, forces it, and the hip gets squished between wanting to come out and wanting to stay in. And that's what, it takes the life out of the hip. The cartilage is gone. That's what causes pain.
And the cartilage is disappearing because there's no
It's pressure, and it's like it's not in the socket, right?
Right.
Like, say it's like your car tires. If they're aligned well, they last long. If they're out of alignment, they wear out faster.
Okay, it's just you're just doing it for pain, but...
Yes, so we do cause pain by doing surgery. That is definitely for real. But it's to prevent future long-term pain.
Okay, are they trying to sell me on this? Like, why is there so much pressure for me to sign them into this surgery, people? Because I can feel it just by listening. Like, it's one thing being in the room and, right, they're expecting you to make this decision. Like, here, go ahead, do what you want, right? And it's another thing sitting here and listening to this. Wondering what's going to happen to us when I say no, 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 no. Right? I'm going to go stand in front of a judge, ask him to give me the authority to get my daughter's medical files. I don't care if it's ShaMay's medical files, Ciera's medical files, from the freaking fucking clinic, from the stupid fucking hospital, right? Blah, blah, blah. And what's he going to do? Stand there and say, no, you can't because you filed a lawsuit and there needs to be a gag order before that happens. So therefore, I can't allow it to happen. Take it up with your fucking government. When by law, I have the right to go and get my daughter's medical files. Right? Especially if I take it to court. How are they going to throw that one out? Just, like, this is what I mean. Just stupid shit like that. Like, why are we even discussing this? Is he busy? You busy?
No, I mean, there's lots of patients, but I want to answer your questions, yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Thanks for reminding me there's lots of patients.
Wow.
That's just doctor gaslighting, right? Okay, does having surgery put Amari at a...
Yeah, it's like
I know
saying,
that, that's
if
why
you
I
were
tried to
waiting
do it
for
this
me-
way. I tried to do it this way. This is why I wanted to do it this way versus... Okay, so putting Amari at a greater risk to early death being his life expectancy. Okay, we read that. What are the physical risks to Amari if he doesn't have surgery? Meaning, you're just basically saying he's going to have more pain, but it necessarily won't kill him.
He's gonna lose the cartilage what he
Yes, but he's saying that if Mari doesn't have surgery, it won't kill him. It's just, it will aspirate pain
for the rest of his life.
based on his experience, but that's not completely determined yet, right? It's a high probability.
There's enough evidence out there from...
Okay.
You go to any hip expert that is a children's hip expert around the world will tell you that yes, that pain is pretty devastating when that comes in.
Yeah.
For families.
At a later age in life.
I have seen as
Not
young
that
as
late.
8 and 9 year olds
Yeah.
with intolerable pain.
Okay.
Yeah, that's if you talk to the families, they will tell you, look, if you did the surgery, if you don't do the surgery with the same pain, that child could have lived 4 years versus you do the surgery, the life could have been brought, probably shortened by 2 years. A lot of families would tell you once they see the suffering they have, we wish we had the surgery done.
Is the presumption of pain... Okay, I don't know, he made it sound like those kids died. One could have lived, if they would have done the surgery, he would have lived for 4 years, but because they didn't do the surgery, only lived for 2 years. Like, I'm kind of lost on that one, right? Or future pain, the only reason surgery is recommended.
I would
And you
say
said
yes.
yes.
Yeah.
That's what you already said.
But it is a science. There is a lot of research.
But it is a science. Yeah, I know. I've looked at some peer reviews. Number 16, what is the method to be used to manage pain if it should occur without surgery?
We do some steroid injections. We refer you to a complex pain team to put them on lots of medications.
And by that time, it would be too late to do surgery if we ever got to that point?
Once the cartilage is gone, it's too late. I have done to put the hips back in within a reason, like say if the hip has been out and I've seen them after a year and a little bit of the cartilage is gone, I've gone to put the hips back in, but they're never as good as doing it when the hip is in. Like, so like say your car tire, you've got a nice button.
But it's never as good as if the hip was in. So they want to do the surgery now before it completely dislocates, because in his mind it's in. And that's to prevent pain, because they're going to somehow make it where it won't come out, even though things can happen and they have to go back in and fix it. Right? That's the way I'm gathering that one there. But once it gets out, the cartilage is gone and they can't really do anything. But they can. They can do hip replacement, which builds in the socket and the ball.
And your alignment is off, you do it, very different from the tire is completely worn off and you correct the alignment. You still need, it's too late.
Okay, so basically what you're saying is his cartilage is still intact at this point, and that's why it's necessary to do it at this age.
I'm not saying do it right now, I'm saying we continue to monitor.
Yeah,
Maybe in
okay.
a year, 2 years, 2.5 years, I will tell you, look, we need to pull the trigger now.
Okay.
I'm not.
I will tell you a lot. We need to pull the trigger now. That's what I'm saying. It's just a matter of time before they come and they say, oh, that's it. The x-ray says, pull out the rug from underneath my feet, call in the fucking gang. If I'm got my heels to the ground saying, no, 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 even though he won't die, right? And there are alternatives, steroids, pain management team, other things, quite possibly hip replacement. Right?
Saying we're pulling the trigger today.
Okay,
But down the road.
Okay, because down the road. Every time I see this guy, though, he's always talking about hip surgery. That's it.
Lady from the States who has a child, well, he's 38 now, right?
Yeah.
Advised me to just try and put it off for as long as I can.
We also try and put it off as long as we can till at that point in time the dose of surgery is significantly more.
The
Right,
what?
say the dosing of the surgery. Say for example right
Dosing?
now. Yeah.
Yeah.
The amount of surgery we need to do.
Oh, I see.
So I might just get away with just cutting the thigh bone. And
I might just get away with
thigh bone and the hip bone.
thigh bone and the hip bone. They want to cut the thigh bone and the hip bone.
Next level is thigh bone, hip bone, and I have to open up the hip joint to
Next level is thigh bone, hip bone, and then he has to open up the hip joint
clear stuff out.
and clear stuff out.
That's because we waited too long.
That's because we waited too long, so he's fucking gaslighting you to make you feel bad before you even started anything.
So ideally I'd like to do it
Which makes you look like you're negligent, right? Because, you know, he warned you, right?
early.
Ideally, we want to do it early.
Well, they heal younger. They heal better when they're younger
Exactly
too.
right. Yeah, fantastic.
Exactly right. Fantastic. Because they're trying to capitalize off of the youthfulness of the child with the hope that that youthfulness will speed up any healing that results from what they're doing.
Fantastic, yes.
Okay.
That's Amari playing with the paper.
Is exploratory surgery expected if pain develops? No, right? As you already know where it's coming from, right?
That's right.
In surgery.
But you see, that's not, that answer isn't necessarily true. Because he's already said he doesn't know what he's coming into contact with or what he's going to do until he gets in and starts looking around. He has to start the operation first, go in, start looking around, and then he decides what he's going to do at that time. Versus if you book Amari in for hip surgery, hip replacement, we know going in what we're doing. We already have a plan. Does that mean that when the doctor cuts into Amari at that point, everything's going to be like, right, in terms of hip replacement? I don't know, people. I don't know how that stuff works. I don't know anyone that's ever had it happen to them, right? I just know that what I read on the internet, it's a really common surgery. And it can be used with individuals with cerebral palsy. And with the technology changing more and more, and you know, they have better medical devices that can be in the body for like 30, 40 years, okay, without any complications in terms of erosion.
He has decided, I just barely here.
You know what, these are great questions. In fact, you know what you should do, as you told us, write them down, my answer, send it. Then we can actually give it to all the patients coming in for surgery and say,
see, this is where I'm being fooled to woo. This is where I think that my house is being bugged, right? Because I'm a little shit disturber, and they don't know what to expect next, so they always like to have one step ahead of me. Because I did mention somehow, some way, video, whatever, that, and this was before I even went there, that I should, well, I read the questions out. Then I said on video that I should type everything out and make it to go, to be able to hand, and he making it sound like I'm doing the community a great service.
hey,
Yeah,
here is a very,
I will.
questions.
Yeah, I will.
these are good questions.
I will
These are good questions. Yeah, okay. I don't think so.
take the time to write
Yeah.
them down, and it'll take me a little while because I'm doing
No
the food
problem.
storage, right?
Yeah.
Right? Okay, but yeah, no, I'll make sure you get a copy of it. If surgery is decided against, right, does that give way to medical staff accusing me of medical neglect,
Not for this.
to which Amari could be removed from my care by MCFD, and then he would have the surgery anyway?
Not for this condition, because, you know, we do let families make decisions. So,
Okay.
who is the legal guardian here? You
Me.
are. So you have absolutely every right here
Okay,
to make
some
that
people would
decision.
see it neglectful if I said no, because I'm subjecting him to pain if
I
it goes to.
look, I mean, there's a whole bunch of things that can actually make him worse. Say, we force this surgery on him, and the family actually doesn't go through it because they're not bought into it. We can make him a lot worse than he is now.
What do you mean? I didn't,
So like say, we take apprehend and say
Oh,
we're going
I-
to do surgery, and afterwards he requires a post-operative care with casting and everything, and the family is not involved in it because we went against them, it can make him worse.
Yeah, because he doesn't have his family there. But at the end of the day, for a lot of these individuals that do this kind of shit, people, I'm not saying this doctor is this way, but that's just nothing. It's nothing. It's how they operate. It's what they do. That's how they get away with what they do. So, you know, that, when there's a will, there's a way, and if they want something, they're gonna get it, and they don't care who they hurt. More reason why I do these videos.
to be in foster care where maybe they just don't care.
So we
At
don't
least the family
do-
cares,
we don't-
supposedly, right?
no.
What we actually really want is that you have informed consent, so
Well,
that
yeah.
you can decide.
Yeah, well, it was just a question, right?
Yeah.
19, how can a second opinion, I'm not discredit you in any way,
Yeah.
I'm just asking a question, because that lady in the States
Yeah,
maybe suggested that I do that, but anyway, how can a second opinion be acted upon before a final decision is made? And I would be, you know, I don't want to put if necessary, but like, how would you feel if I said, well, gee, I want a second
absolutely.
opinion? I mean, and
I,
if so, how would I even go about such a thing?
we'll
And is it
arrange for
reasonable?
it. You don't.
So this is all about booking Amari in for surgery, people, right? Like, where he's just gonna pull the plug. He says it.
Need to worry about it. There's another surgeon in this clinic that does hip surgeries. Her name is Dr. LaRay.
And that's assuming it's even necessary, because I gotta go, I mean,
No,
it
no,
doesn't
I
sound
mean,
like you're doing this next week, so.
Yeah, I do, I mean, in fairness, I do more of these than anyone in Canada right now.
It's about the decision-making, not about the quality of the work.
Completely agree with you.
He does more of these than anyone in Canada right now. Canada's a big country, people.
So I think,
Good answer.
yeah,
That's,
As he's killing off his hippocampus because he wears a mask all day, every day.
yes, no,
That's very
I'm-
astute, actually.
I am,
Do you hear that? Who was that? That wasn't Tisha.
and what I do was with you, it's about decision making,
yeah.
right? And I also
Who the
say
fuck
that
laughs
there are many
like
people
that?
that know how to cut, but it's when to cut, when not to cut is what's important.
Yeah,
So I think you're absolutely right.
yeah. Okay. That's why I'm asking these questions.
Yes,
Okay.
Absolutely.
So do you want us to organize for you to see another doctor?
I'm not worried about that just yet. Let me talk it over with my family and we'll discuss it. There's no rush on that yet,
Sure.
is there?
No,
Okay.
no.
Okay, let's just get,
And I told you my feelings on that. And what's in the works, maybe. In terms of that man that knows this doctor and has worked with this doctor, but is going to be retiring very soon. And I'm just wondering how much advice he'd really give me. At arm's length, that is. To any program, any research study, anything.
get through these questions first, because I know
How many
you're
questions
busy.
do you have?
Just, you're almost done. Can medical files be, and then in this situation, could you transfer medical files between doctors if we were deciding
Yes,
to
absolutely.
get a second opinion,
Girl
which would
behind
be
me.
very well helpful for you too.
Fantastic.
2 doctors is
Are you
better
ready?
than 1 doctor, in my
Yes.
opinion, right?
Yes.
So we might still go down that route.
Fantastic.
Okay,
You ready?
and we'll fit you in too, sir.
Are you ready?
Right, he's
She's
learning.
playing with Amari.
Okay.
I can tell you, this consult is probably the most he would have learned in this 3 months here.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Well, that's
Big time. Yeah.
all right, we'll make sure he gets a copy of this. Number
He
21.
was talking
we'll
about
hip
that
surgery
student doctor.
rate. Future spine, back problems, obviously that's a reoccurring issue for
Yes.
me, because he's always,
The back
Right,
problems are gonna
sliding
happen
down.
anyways,
Yeah.
but if we don't operate, they'll happen more quickly.
and that is a guarantee.
That's the second time he said that, but then he said something different
Okay.
before.
And a secondary doctor would agree with you.
Absolutely.
Okay. And if so, is back surgery expected?
It is likely that he may need, because, as I said,
Likely
40 to
without surgery?
no, even without surgery, 40
Now
to
he's
50%
setting him up
of
for
kids
back
of
surgery.
this condition at some stage may develop scoliosis.
So
Bad enough
this is
that they-
new information, so
Oh, yeah.
we're looking at maybe back surgery now?
Possibly, yes.
Right,
Like over
because
top of the other leg, it's not quite a ring.
No, not because he's got any curvature
Better?
now, but they develop one as they grow through rapid growth spurt. Around ages 8, 9, 10,
is
11,
that straight?
Yeah,
12. It is pretty straight right now.
pretty straight.
Okay, you hear that, Mom?
Yeah, well, that's not what I'm thinking. I'm thinking about this. That's, I
The
don't.
hunting, not the, you're thinking
You know,
more
he's
the
like- just the
kyphosis.
fact that he can't, unless he's strapped in a wheelchair. Other than that, on his own, he
Yeah, he's-
just starts to,
Slide down.
right. So being that you know a little something about back surgery, can you just give me a quick little rundown on that?
I'm
New
not a
information.
back surgeon, but I can tell you that there is a 40% chance with these children that are in
40%.
wheelchair predominantly requiring back surgery.
And the wheelchair actually is very important because it's the brace for the spine.
He likes it.
Good.
Yeah.
So I should put him in the
'Cause you
wheelchair
feel
more often.
supported and you
Yeah.
can do more. That's right.
Okay.
Actually, it's very good
He
for
sits
them.
in there for a long time though, so I can have him.
But I don't
for
put him
like-
in it every day, Tisha.
No?
No.
Well,
He would like it.
when he is in there, he goes in there for
Okay,
hours.
okay.
Yeah.
Ready?
Yeah.
Yes,
Okay,
please.
let's go fast.
Let's get through these
I know,
two,
I'm
yeah.
so sorry. Will Amari have to relearn to use his legs? And will he be able to kick them after surgery?
Yes.
you to answer that.
At what month?
Sorry?
Whether there will be any impact to surgery on the volitional movement of the legs.
Yeah, so I think it's a really important one that where they are going to be slow for about 6 months after surgery. And sometimes if there is a nerve that's stretched during surgery or whatever, their ability to move that foot on that side might be low, but it never affects their ability. If they were to stand, they will still stand. If they were to walk, they'll still walk.
We're not talking about those children. We're talking about Amari. But being that I'm supposed to write this out, I suppose I should include that information as well.
Will hip surgery help with Amari's ability to sit up?
Not necessarily. I don't think it will help. If he's able to sit up, and he will, this surgery is not going to enhance it.
Okay, 1 week confinement in a hospital setting is unreasonable for all family members when it relates to recuperating time, right? That is estimated for Amari's recovery before being released from hospital. Therefore, allowances need to be made to accommodate families' need to be able to participate and share in the healing process. In other words, my son has already offered to spend 1 or 2 days in...
Yeah, why am I feeling like I'm going into surgery with Amari? Why? Because that's what they've been like pushing for, right, people? Okay? That's why I'm asking that question, because I'm being made to feel like I have to do this. Even though they say I don't.
in the room with Amari versus me being in there.
Yeah, sure.
And Tisha may come and spend 1 or 2 days. Otherwise, you're going to get stuck with me for a week, and I don't think you're going to want that.
Why not? We'd love for you to be
Because
there.
I don't think I do very well. I don't think it has anything to do with you guys, and more like it has a lot to do with
No
you.
problem. We
There's
say
got to be room for movement.
one of the
in there.
caregivers, we say, whoever the family decides.
I just have to confirm that too, with the policies on the ward. You're allowed to, generally it has to be, I thought, let me just confirm, I'll be right back.
Okay.
It was just COVID stuff.
Okay, yeah, I understand that, but we don't even know we're gonna be in, well, anyway,
Yeah,
you
maybe
haven't
hopefully
even
be out
told me
of
what you
COVID
wanna
then.
do yet. What are the restrictions and boundaries placed on the family when it relates to COVID? Like, are we even doing surgery anytime soon? Because if that's the case, we don't really need to answer these questions
No,
and keep you busy right now.
No, not right now. I don't think I'm gonna operate within the next year for him.
Okay,
I don't think I am going to operate within the next year for him. So he's already got it in his mind that he's going to cut into Amari. It's already a given with these people. This is what I'm trying to tell you. Okay? And if with it being a given, it's just a matter of time before they set me up for that and pull in the big guns, wherever those guns come in fucking from. And the closer I get to court, right, or maybe getting Ciera's medical files or being successful on that front, the harder all these little outside groups are gonna go into attack mode and will use situations like Amari's to derail the whole process when it comes to holding my government to account as to how Amari and even got into that place in the first place. Not to mention everything else with Uncle John and all that. And now they got me on a wild goose chase trying to get Ciera's stuff. Taking notes.
then that can be held off,
Yeah.
right? This one here can technically be held off because
Yeah,
we don't know
sure.
what's changing,
Absolutely.
right?
See,
Duty
they
of
got
care-
me in perpetual fear here. They got me over a barrel, right? They got me jumping through their hoops.
Well, that gets into the criminal code of Canada, and we're not in that position right now, so, right? I got it over there, if you notice, I don't know if you got good eyesight, but it's there. It's keeping an eye on everybody, making sure we're on the up and up. Yeah, it doesn't equate
Doesn't fit in your pocket though.
forced isolation through, okay, intimidate, so we don't have to worry about any of that. And it's only because of what our governments are doing and not what you're doing. Okay, in terms of these questions.
But you see, the doctor, he supports what the government's doing. It becomes very apparent here.
We'll be able to
It's
support
nothing
you.
personal,
Yeah,
that's
we'll
what
be
I'm
able to
trying to
support
say.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Because you're not the one that's Dr. God, Dr. Death here, right? You're just the hip doctor. I do YouTube videos. I like to give pet names to my pet peeves, right? Will Judy be told that she cannot record? Obviously, we did. Very good, thank you so much, I do appreciate that. And I will print this out. What legislation restricted that? Obviously none, because you were copacetic with me, I appreciate that. And so on and so on. And then, health, okay, we don't need none of that. It's all to do with
I'm trying to
legislation.
speed up,
I was
right?
ready to fight.
I
I'm ready
was.
to fight, so that's good.
Yay.
Will the family right to not participate in a experiment? Okay, this is important.
This is important.
Will the family's right to not participate in a experimental inoculation program be respected? In other words, I'm not getting vaxxed. I'm not having my grandkids get vaxxed. And anyone that's with me that does not want to be vaxxed, that's their private business.
That's right.
Yeah, I have nothing. We have been treating kids so far, everybody, and kids of this age are not being vaccinated anyway, so there's no rule right now that say.
Do you see? There is no rule right now. So he will not advocate for Amari's family or for Amari's health as the way the family sees it. Once the agenda changes,
Is I cannot operate on.
But
Yeah.
if there's a rule, you'll follow the rule and you won't advocate for the patient. That's where it starts to fall.
Let's not even get to that point right now.
Okay.
he got mad. He got mad, people. Oh, this does not get to that point right now.
It's not.
Okay.
Look, in it, like I've got 10 patients waiting there.
And then he tries to guilt trip me by saying that he took the time to talk to me to answer all those questions. And now I'm calling him on while, and this is the man that's going to cut into my grandson. When he wants to, for his research. As I'm being told by receptionists giving me referrals to doctors that know him so I can get a second opinion, that he's a really good doctor. And I'm sure he is. He's the one that's doing most of these surgeries in all of Canada through the BC Children's Hospital at the expense of taxpayers and children like Amari.
I'm not going to get into those arguments right now. I don't have any
It was a question. It wasn't an argument.
stance on that.
Okay.
I know it was an unfair question because he doesn't make the orders, okay? I understand that. If anything, I try not to feel sorry for him and the rest of his staff as they're being forced to wear these masks as they're in denial that they're not killing off their hippocampuses. These are supposed to be highly educated individuals, and why they'd want to be in denial of that, I don't know. Anyway. So I'm going to leave it on that. I think we're almost at the end of this. Yeah, almost. We'll finish it up. And then I'm going to just let it rest for a week or two. And try and do some more reading and that kind of stuff. And I have to decide about this other doctor. Like I said, I'm kind of scared. I don't feel like I'm going to get an honest opinion. I don't.
We're gonna support you either way.
Okay.
For now.
Cruel and unusual health care.
For now. Until next year when the doctor decides to pull the plug. Because that's all it's going to take.
Isolate, okay. What about the follow-up appointment?
For us,
And because there will be nobody behind him fact-checking what the fuck he does or did or anything, medical files can easily be falsified. We know that. Medical files can easily be buried, hidden away, not available. We know that.
No.
6 months from now.
Well, for
not
us,
right.
but after surgery, since that's basically what we were talking about.
After surgery, yeah. I mean, as you said, there's lots of questions that'll come after surgery we need to talk about. So once we decide on surgery, right?
Yeah.
So typical aftercare, surgery here in the hospital for a week to 10 days, then come back at 2 week mark, 2 to 3 week mark for a wound check, 6 weeks, 3 months, 6 months, year, 2 years if everything goes well. Obviously, if there are complications, we'll be here in the hospital longer, the visits will be more frequent.
Don't worry, I'll have my license by then. We're practicing.
And you're pretty sure that,
I'm not having Tisha driving us anywhere on those highways. It ain't happening, people.
based on your experience, there are no real alternatives to surgery.
Based on my experience, there is no alternatives to prevent a hip from dislocating if the hip was going to dislocate. One of the things we say is we believe that possibly putting that immobilization will slow the rate of the dislocation, but it doesn't necessarily stop it altogether.
That's what they wanted me to do with those braces, put them in them every night for 18 years to slow whatever it was that was slowing down, but yet at the same time book them in at age 5 for surgery and then still expect them to wear those things for 18 years. They wanted to put them in a, I call it a monkey tube, people. What gives them the right to treat Amari like that for his whole life? Like, seriously. And this is what they want to bring into developing countries, poor countries, right? They use the more wealthier countries to do whatever it is the fuck they want to do, however they want to do it, right? It doesn't matter who it affects and whatever, so that they can take whatever it is that they learn or whatever it is that they're doing into developing countries and try and implement it there. Because that's the reason for the study and the research, is to make it easier for poorer countries to be able to bring in better quality services for those children in those countries born with cerebral palsy, because they don't have the resources in order to do the research effectively, because they don't have enough money to put the money into the funding for that type of shit to happen in their country. That's why they come to countries like mine, because the government just says, take what you want. And if you start to commit crimes, that's okay too, because it stimulates the underground economy and it keeps, you know, that predator class fat and fed. Oh, wait. Should we finish this? And then I don't have to do this again.
Right, that's
But we
what,
could also be on the lucky spectrum where these hips may never dislocate and I would not have to offer it.
On the lucky spectrum, and these hips will not dislocate and I will never have to operate. What if I don't want you to operate and I want somebody else to operate, but it's obvious I don't get a choice? See, that's the thing. There are no choices.
So I don't know that yet. We're having all this discussion
okay.
from my gut feeling that majority, 90% of these children will have hip displacement enough to require some intervention, right? But he could well be in the 10% where we're watching or those hips will never dislocate, and we don't need to talk about surgery at all.
Okay, so what can I,
But you see, that's the thing. Every time I see or hear talk to these people, that's all they ever want to do is surgery, 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 surgery. They're just itching to do fucking surgery. The way we're talking on here, it sounds like we're almost getting ready to book in surgery. It's like waiting for that knock on the door.
I do outside of those things to encourage that 10%?
Positioning, stretching, pillows, like honestly, I mean, one of the things is positioning, keeping the hips in this position, right? Slows the progression as opposed to this. If the hips are crossed, they're coming out, right?
And Amari, like,
So what, I'm gonna go home and make one of those things now? You jump on the team?
You have one.
Yeah, I don't know.
yeah, no,
if it
they
fits
want me
it
to
anymore.
use this thing. He
Definitely,
doesn't like it.
definitely try and
that
adjust
one-
it.
He does not like that, people. He gets really moody, depressed, and right? He'll cry sometimes. He doesn't, I don't know. He's got 45 years to live. All right? He's nobody's pincushion. Nobody's experiment, nobody's study, nobody's research subject. Right?
It's not gonna fit him anymore. This boy is like long.
And I wouldn't want to go through that unless I could guarantee you that I would use that. I will either try and make my own
Oh, I
first,
got something in
Sure.
mind.
especially with the one leg that I talked about.
It's the one leg that I'm going to work with. I'm not going to worry about trying to do this shit because he deserves freedom. He doesn't have much in his life. Means a lot to him, people. It helps him to grow emotionally and stuff. Little bugger slid off the couch. And I was dozing. Woke up and there he was sitting there playing. I go, oh my God, Amari. I have to get more rails. He's just getting much stronger, more agile, more quick to do what he wants in terms of moving around. Eventually I'm gonna have to move. Right, my landlady said that the little deep fryer I gave her is not the kind that she likes, so she's gonna give it back to me and told me to put it on Craigslist and sell it. You know, get rid of your shit.
Start maybe with that. And what can I do with just him laying around on the bed? And you said put a pillow how?
Just in between the legs. So anything that you can
That
make sure the legs
goes-
don't go past neutral.
I see.
Come this way, right?
That's why I want to do that leather brace.
Why don't you
Sure.
just put Velcro on like a pair of
I'm
pants
gonna
and a
just-
pillow? You know, so you
Okay,
can't-
any other questions?
That's good. Yeah,
Thank
you're
you so
free.
much. I appreciate it. I really do.
You know what?
And I do. I appreciate his personable interaction, and you know, he was thinking fast under pressure, right? He knew he was being recorded. Can't expect the man to know everything. He's not supposedly a robot, right? I mean, some of the numbers don't match up, but then, you know, he has lots of issues he deals. I'm not making excuses for him, but you know, he didn't know what questions were coming in advance, per se.
You actually asked like really important questions.
I'll make sure you get a copy
Yeah,
of them
please,
for your
please
file.
get me a copy
And
of
then
that.
I wish I could feel more confident with his compliment. I don't necessarily feel it. I want to, but I feel like I'm being set up here.
You guys can copy
We
and
can
paste.
add it to our frequently asked questions.
Yeah, and save a lot of
Yeah.
anxiety for
Absolutely.
a lot of other people and
Absolutely.
time for yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Those are various. You've done your homework,
There it is again.
and I appreciate you asking this
Well, if
question.
I have more, I'll just write them down, and the next time we touch base, whether it's on Zoom or phone or whatever.
Do you want us to organize a second opinion now, or do you want to wait till we make a decision to operate or not, and then?
Do you see how they keep pushing this? Do you want to wait until we make a decision before we operate? Like he's pushing me towards it, people. It shouldn't even be a fucking issue by this point. Right? Amari is just a statistic to this program. That's, for me, what it feels like. Right? It was already determined that, he might not do anything for a year or two or whatever, but he's, before we make a decision. Like, I want to run away. I want to get the fuck out of British Columbia, Canada. I do, people. I do not feel safe in this province any longer. There is too much money laundering going on within the healthcare system. Okay?
Now have a second opinion, or are you going to seek on your own to find someone?
We'll do that.
Knowing that there's nobody really to find. You see, they already know all this because they already have all their bases covered. Okay?
I don't know.
Okay, well, I leave it to you. Okay.
I don't know what to do.
Right, no, he's a very
Thank you for
determined
coming.
boy. Like, he's
Thank you.
Awesome.
Yeah, appreciate it.
Okay, bye.
Yeah, please,
Just for fun, is it okay if I
It's gonna be your high
share
five.
our report with Tamara?
Of course.
Okay, thank you.
Here, Tisha, can you?
And then now we're sharing this report with other groups.
Turn that off
And
for me.
then, you
Yeah. They want me to book in surgery, people. They're gonna keep pushing fucking surgery and they're gonna use their x-rays to do it. Because that's the agenda. I don't care how good this doctor is. Okay? People can give mad reviews. It's the agenda that I care about. And I don't like the agenda. And that agenda will be used against my family. At some point in the future. Mm-hmm. And just like they're not giving me Ciera's medical files at the hospital, just like they're not giving me Ciera or ShaMay's medical files from the clinic, right? Just like they're not giving me autopsy reports or coroner reports for Ciera, just like they're not letting me know what the fuck the cops fucking did with their stupid investigation. What do you think's gonna happen down the road? If I don't give them what they want.